Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bobby Suarez podcast. We haven't done one in a while, so I had to bring out a special friend. He's been an old friend of mine in the real estate game. He's been in the industry for a very, very long time. One of the first guys I met when I got into real estate. My friend Alex Pardo, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, man. So, am I credited for bringing you out of podcast retirement?
You are, man. I haven't done one of these in a few months. So, thank you for bringing me out of retirement.
Thank you. No, thank you for having me, man. It's awesome, dude. I've looked up to you for a long time, man. It's I love to see your growth in this business, and
thank you,
it's just great to connect with you again, man.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that, man. I know a lot of things have changed for you in the business. Well, you made a recent transition, right? Was it recent or a few years ago where you left the wholesaling industry to go into self-storage?
Yeah. So after 16 years of running a wholesaling business, brother, the business no longer aligned with my vision. I remember in 2017, I was on a cruise and I had a pretty small team at that point. I think it was like 4 or 5 of us. And it felt like I had built a prison and I was inside of it. I didn't have the key. I wasn't as smart to build the business the way you did with just the right systems and processes. And so, man, long story short, I joined CG at that time. And you know how it is when you get immersed in a mastermind community like that with like high level players, you get inspired. Absolutely. And so I grew, I doubled my team, overhead shot through the roof. Now for me, overhead was, $40,000, $45,000 a month. And at that time we had to close a couple of deals just to break even. Yeah. And yeah, man, I wasn't having fun. Like I was tired of chasing deals. And so in 2019, I decided, man, I'm going to shut down this business, even though it's profitable. One of the questions I always ask myself is, if I am doing what I'm doing today, 12 months from now, like how would that make me feel? And it was like a gut punch. I'm like, man, I built this business and I'm just not getting fulfillment and joy out of it.
So you were the business because you were still running it. So obviously the business wouldn't run without you. Is that why you left it?
It ran without me, but I felt that I wasn't the one talking to sellers and like doing all the technical work, right? I had team members, I had a dispositions manager, acquisitions, like the whole nine. But brother, I was running sales meetings all the time, checking the KPIs, like just in a leadership role, which that's what we sign up for.
Those are the stressful stuff that people don't see.
We were just talking about this before the podcast, how it weighs on us. Absolutely. Right? And so like when somebody on your team is not carrying their weight, like for me, it's not them, it's me, right? It's like, how do I need to level up as a leader, as a business owner, as a visionary? And it was just challenging, man. And so don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-business and building a team. It was just the business I was in. It was a transactional business, and I was just tired of chasing deals, man.
Got it, man. And I commend you for actually walking away from a business that was actually profitable.
It's tough, man.
Because not that many people I know would do that. You know what I mean? A lot of people would just stay there, and if you feel like a slave to your business, and they'll just live like that their whole life. Yeah. So I commend you for making the transition.
Thank you, man. And honestly, one of the toughest challenges was for me was that it was almost like my identity was tied to the business. And I realized that, like, dude, I am not the business. The business isn't me. It's what I do, but it doesn't define me. Yeah. And it was tough to share that news on the podcast. And this was right around the time of COVID. And I got in my head thinking, people are going to think I'm shutting down because of COVID or because of this and that. And then I realized, man, it doesn't care what does it matter what people think, and all that. It's like, I need to do me. And if it no longer aligns with my vision, like, what am I going to do?
And how did you get into like self-storage? What made you choose that line of business?
I always assumed, Bobby, that at some point I was going to transition into multifamily, right? Like single family, like it just made sense for me. And I was coaching somebody in our mastermind that owned a storage facility. And when you coach somebody, you get an inside look into their business. Yep. And brother, I fell in love with the asset class. Like just everything from when I started researching it, storage is a very recession resistant asset class. I love the idea of like no tenants, no toilets. I suck as a rehabber. We were talking about like fix and flip before this. I've done my fair share of them, but I just don't enjoy it. Yeah. And so storage is a simple business. You rent space and it provides for time freedom. And so, yeah, man, I just started really like digging into that asset class. And I think it was December of 2020. So I shut down the business, May of 2020, December of 2020. I just decided, hey, I'm going to devote my energy to storage.
And did you hire like a mentor to teach you that line of business?
I did.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Brother, I haven't, since 2010, there hasn't been a month, not a year, a month where I haven't had a coach or a mentor I'm working with. Like I believe in it that much.
Got it.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a nugget right there for somebody wanting to get into business, or if you're already in business, make sure you have people that are mentoring you.
Yeah.
That's super important.
Yeah.
You know, at whatever level of business you're in.
Dude, I have 4 coaches at this stage in different areas of my life, obviously,
it.
which you could argue maybe that's a bit excessive. But man,
I don't think so.
To me, it's like the ultimate insurance policy. The fact that like I can pick up the phone and call or text somebody who has been further along in the journey than I have, because I don't know what's up ahead, but they do.
Yeah, they've been there.
And it's been incredible.
You don't mind sharing what other coaches that you have, or what do they
Yeah,
specialize in?
so health and fitness, right? Personal, like marriage, just life coach. My wife and I were seeing a marriage coach for a while. Very different from a therapist.
Yeah.
Right? We've always had a pretty good relationship and a strong relationship, but like, how do we like take it to level 10? And that's a blessing and a curse, I think, right? Is that I think that you and I are wired where we're constantly like striving for more and for growth. And that was the pit I fell into my wholesaling businesses. I wanted to go bigger, and I realized that, dude, going bigger is not always better. Better is better.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, just in different areas of my life. I'm part of a mastermind for fathers, right?
That's right, you mentioned that
Yeah, we
before.
talked about
Yeah.
that. Front Row Dads, shout out to them. So men that want to be better fathers and husbands. So just different areas of my life. I'm always looking to like level up.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about more on the family side. I follow you all on social media. You're always with your family.
Yeah. No.
Man, do you homeschool your kids, or they?
No, I wanted to, but that
Really?
was a battle I chose not to take on with my wife.
The
and
same
so-
thing with us. My wife is like, I can't have the kids at the house. all
Yeah,
day.
yeah. No, and I told my wife, I'm like, don't worry, this is not your responsibility. Like, we'll find the best. We'll hire the best.
Got it.
But
Got
we
it.
ended up putting them in the school that my wife went to, just a good Catholic school, great community. So we're happy there. But yeah, I was pro homeschooling.
Got it. Man, and let's discuss a little bit more, man. Like, have you traveled lately? I know you're always traveling. What's like a cool place you've been to recently?
Oh man, Blue Ridge, Asheville, Gatlinburg. Even though I'm like you, dude, we love the water, we love the
Yeah.
Keys, right? Obviously, you know, we've been talking a lot about the Keys. We love the mountains too.
Really?
So yeah, man, traveling is just one of those things that like, my wife never traveled until she married me, right? And I told my wife, I said, I want to give our girls the gift of new perspective and seeing other cultures. And so last year we spent almost a month in Italy. 2 years prior to that, 3 weeks in Greece. And so just, man, and I say that humbly, and just fortunate and blessed to be able to like give those experiences to my family.
That's
and to this
awesome.
day, dude, we're at dinner with our girls, and you know, they ask, hey, remember that time in Greece? Or like they remember those experiences. And to me, that's priceless.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah, man.
So it's safe to say you pretty much you have a lifestyle business.
I do.
You
I
don't.
do, yeah.
How many hours do you dedicate to your business a week?
Well, I'm in a season of growth right now. So I launched a coaching business helping
Okay.
people acquire their first storage facility. And so I'm putting in more hours now but typically I'm usually working about 30, 35 hours a week.
Okay, so it's like a regular. It's a job in itself.
It just doesn't feel like work to me, Bobby.
'Cause you like it.
Because I enjoy it, man. It just doesn't feel like work. Now, don't get me wrong. There's aspects of the business that I don't love. And I always ask myself, like, can I delegate this? Can I outsource it? Can I automate it or delete it? Right? And if I can't do one of those, then I'll take it on. But yeah, I'm trying to tap into the things that give me energy and spending most of my time there, and the things that drain me, just like outsource it or delegate it.
Love it. Do you have employees in this business?
I have
or
an
is it just you?
assistant. I have an
Okay.
assistant who's my right hand, and then we have some virtual assistants that we work with.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Man, can you give any advice just to like a young entrepreneur, somebody who wants to get into business? Any like advice that you would give them on how to get into, let's say, if you want to get into self-storage, what should they be doing?
I mean, what they're already doing, if they're watching us, they're educating themselves. But it's like, what are you going to do with the information that you hear on this podcast or another YouTube video? It's like speed of implementation to me is like one of those separators. The people in our inner circle that we deem successful, man, it's not just about consuming information and that makes them feel like they're progressing, but it's actually implementing and not being afraid to fail. I think too many people are afraid to fail. We were talking about earlier, like, how am I going to look? What are people going to think?
Yeah.
Like, forget that, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as cliche as it sounds, Bobby, like, we have one life, dude.
Absolutely.
And I wish I knew this earlier, but now it's like, man, just go for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So just, I hate to use the word fail forward, because that's so, again, it's cliche, but just speed of implementation, man, not being afraid to fail, and putting yourself out there.
Awesome, man. That's great advice, man.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about more on, like, where do you see yourself for, like, let's say in the next 5 years?
Man,
are you gonna still be living in Miami in the same house?
Great question. Great question. Where do I see myself in 5 years? You know, I'm gonna be vulnerable and transparent with you, man. Like, this is an area where I struggle. I'm always thinking a year or two in advance. When I think
Same
5
here.
years, man, I see myself transitioning. Let's talk business first, and then we'll end with the most important, which is personal and family. Like, you know, Robert Kiyosaki has the cash flow quadrant, right? You have the E, and then you have the S, employee, self-employed.
Yep.
Then you have business owner and investor. I see myself more transitioning into the investor quadrant, right? So I'm looking to work with the right operators, the right people. I don't love the operations of a business per se. I love business and entrepreneurship, but being the main cog, the operator, I don't think that's my best role. So what I'm really good at is just connecting with people, building relationships, building a network. And so tapping more into those things, that gives me energy, not necessarily like building a business from the ground up, the operations.
It's definitely tough, man.
It's challenging, man. It's tough. And don't get me wrong, man. I don't shy away from like challenging things. In fact, I lean into those. That's where the growth is. But my belief, Bobby, is that God has given us all like unique gifts and talents. And it's your job to figure out like, what are those gifts, and then step into them.
Absolutely.
So
I call those superpowers.
That's right.
What are your superpowers? And make sure, man, you're focusing on that and doing that, because, like you said, if you're focusing on your superpower, it doesn't feel like work.
That's right. 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And what about on your personal, on your family that you know?
More travel, man. I want to, man, I always think whenever I make a decision, whenever I do anything, whether it's life or business, I'm thinking to myself, if my daughters were watching me, and by the way, kids are always watching us, you know this.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like, is this elevating them in some way, or is this taking them in a different direction? And so, man, I'm just always conscious of being an example for them. So, you know, one of the things we recently started doing is I encouraged my daughter to start a business. She loves bracelets, and so she started making bracelets. Went around the neighborhood, like watching her door knock, watching her break through that fear. So just being a father figure, and then just coaching my kids and sharing, passing along the things that I've learned. Not that I know it all, because one thing I know is that I don't know anything, right? And so I've always had that mindset of just like growth and learning. And so just passing those things along to my kids. And every morning they watch me reading, you know, whether it's in the Word or reading a personal development book. And now they're picking up on some of those habits, right? So just those are the things that, like, that's how I know I'm doing something right.
That's great. And definitely, like you said, the kids are watching. Like my kids, me and my wife were talking about it. Like, man, our kids are developing amazing habits. They read before going to bed on their own.
Incredible.
And it's probably because they see me and my wife doing it. And it's funny you mentioned the bracelet business. My daughters did that too. And it's crazy how you see almost like yourself in them. You know what I mean? At that young age, it's incredible, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, man. And it's just, it's so important for people watching us, Bobby. The words we use in our household are so important, man. Like there's vibrations in the words we use, and kids pick up on that. Like if my daughter was here and you asked, Ariana, what's a bad word in your household? She'd immediately say can't. Like can't, I'd rather hear her drop like another word than saying can't. Like in our household, she can't.
Nothing's impossible.
You cannot use that word. And so I think just personal development, how you talk to them, encouraging them, lifting them up, and also letting them fail. You know, it's just like when they fall down, it's like, I could easily pick you up, but it's like, no, like get up.
That's where they really learn, man. When they make their own mistakes. And it's funny you mentioned, again, going back to they're always watching. I teach my kids because sometimes I don't want them to feel like they're special compared to their friends. And I'm teaching them at a young age, like, hey, don't be bragging. People don't like people that brag. You know what I mean? And make sure you're being kind to others. Like every once in a while, it's like something that I love doing is I'll see a random person or a couple at a restaurant, and I'll just randomly pay their lunch.
I love it.
And I tell my kids, I pay it. I'm like, and I even tell the waiter or the waitress, I'm like, hey, don't even tell them it's me. Just pay it and we walk away.
I love
you know what I mean?
brother. I love that.
So I'm teaching my kids, like, make sure you're giving back. You know. Always help people. Be there for people. Don't brag. You know what I mean?
So
I love that, man. Fail forward. You know.
It's so important. And man, you bring up an interesting thing because. My wife my daughter's very confident. My oldest, anyways. She's almost overly confident, like, and she's in competitive dance.
I've seen her in the videos dancing.
That's her thing. She loves it, man. She came out of the womb dancing, and so she'll say things, and my wife will say, "Ariana, humble pie," And I'm with my wife on that, right? And I always back my wife up, especially in front of our kids, even though I might disagree.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fine line between being braggadocious, cocky, and being confident, right? And I don't quite know what that line is, but I said, look, be confident in yourself.
Yep.
But you don't necessarily have to go around telling the world, but then you hear the Cardones of the world, the Trump, that attention is the currency. And that's the age that these kids are living up in and growing in. And you and I too. Yep. And so I understand where they're coming from, but, to me, like, faith is very important to me. Like, the word talks about being humble. Right. And so I agree with you, man.
Love it. Man, talking about that we're in the YouTube social media age, how do you deal with, because this is a challenge for us, with the tablets and all that. Do you limit their time on that?
Bobby,
it's definitely tough at our household.
It's a struggle, man. Yeah. I don't want to come across in this podcast like we haven't figured out, and like my wife will watch this and be like, is that 100% true?
Yeah.
Dude, it's a battle. It's a battle. We've attempted to put like guidelines and parameters, like a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And if I'm being honest with you, brother, like sometimes we default to the tablet being the babysitter.
Yep.
And I know it's wrong and it's challenging when I'm trying to have a conversation with my wife, and it's just madness in the household. It's like organized chaos. And so, yes, we're very mindful and aware, and we need to do a better job.
Yeah.
Especially at dinner.
We definitely need somebody to come up with like an amazing technique to get rid of it, because dude, when they're not on it, like they're like, yo, hurry up. Like, like we try to like limit it and they're like, come on, please.
Well, you know what's crazy? I don't know if do people still use the word grounded. I don't know if you guys use grounded or punished or like, so I just grounded my oldest. This was a couple of weeks ago, and her punishment was no iPad, no screens for a week. Her behavior changed during that week for the better.
Really?
Right. And I told my wife, I'm like, you don't think the screens have an impact on how they behave and how they act and how they're stimulated? And it's like a week, she can survive. She'll be okay. And her behavior got better. Why are we defaulting to giving it back to them?
Yeah.
Right. And so
it's definitely a different era, man. When we were growing up, like my thing was like jump on the bike and I'll be home before nighttime. Like, it's crazy how society is. Our kids are on the iPad all day. I don't even let them go get the mail. That's how worried I am. Like, if somebody's going to come and take your kid, you know what I mean?
But, I was just having this conversation with another buddy of mine. Now they live online. And I could argue, I don't know that I would, but I could argue that it's more dangerous online.
Really?
Right? And I think PBD, Patrick Bet-David, just had some expert on his podcast. And he said, look how easy it is. Like, go to Google and type in teen chat. Go into the teen chat and just say hi. Like, create an account, say hi. And within seconds, Bobby, you have all these like little kids like reaching out to a random stranger.
That's crazy, man.
Like, that scares the crap out of me.
I've never seen it like that, dude.
And so like, to your point, I grew up in the streets, and when I say the streets, I'm not talking like the hood. I'm talking about playing basketball, sports, like just on the bike,
without
like
a cell phone, without nothing,
hanging out with friends, right? And these days the kids don't go out. And to your point, if I have them go out, it's like even in our neighborhood, which we live in a great neighborhood, like backyard, not the front yard.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. But they're online. And so that is something we've put, like, they don't have access to. It's YouTube Kids. It's certain, there's certain locks and parameters. That is one thing that my wife and I are on the same page. They are not getting a phone until, I don't know, man, maybe 15, 16 is what we're thinking.
I agree with you, man. Yeah, they have no business having a phone until at least they're 15.
It's dangerous, man. They got to be responsible enough to handle it, man, because they have access to the world, and then you have others programming your kids.
Yep.
And it can't be so the foundation at the house just has to be like rock steady, man.
Love that, man.
Yeah.
Where I know you mentioned you travel a lot. Where's the next vacation gonna be at?
Right now, man, our sights are on the Keys, dude. So it's not sexy, but like, this. My wife and I have been looking for a place in the Keys, man. I have fond memories as a child, just like in the water, on the boat, or just going to friends' places. And we've always wanted a place in the Keys. So the challenge for me is like, I'm so wired to want a deal and not just go pay retail for something. So I've kind of, sending out some direct mail campaigns, making it a challenge to maybe find something on owner financing.
Cool. So, well, hopefully I'll help you find something, because every once in a while I get calls over there.
Yeah, man.
I'll just happily pass
something
it away.
Something tells me there's a strong likelihood that we might be able to work something out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, man. Like, I have a second home in the Keys also. And when that it fell on our lap, we weren't even looking actively. And it honestly, when we bought a place in the Keys, it's like changed our life.
Oh man, that's incredible.
I remember this lead came in. The guy wanted a lot more money than what I bought it for.
Right.
And I had forgotten about it. And one day we were going to the Keys to stay at a resort at Baker's Cay, and my wife's like, "Hey, where's that place that you had told me about, and I literally turned to the right and it was right there. So I called my team and I told them, hey, call the guy and tell him I'm going to show up with my family today. Literally, I put it on their contract that same day.
That same day?
That same day,
Wow.
dude. And I got it at the price where right around where I wanted to be at. And honestly, man, it was the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah, man. No, I love watching you on Instagram with your family. Like, enjoy the boat, enjoy your place, like create those memories with the kids, man.
Dude,
it's like
it's very important, man.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids remember, man. You know.
Yeah.
And going back, even boating, dude, it's like such an amazing hobby that I have a boat in my lake house, but it's not the same as having that freedom of jumping into your boat and pulling up to a restaurant or pulling up to a sandbar.
I know.
Super cool, man. Well, hopefully I'll help you find a spot out there, man.
Yeah.
And you're not looking to leave elsewhere, like out of the country?
No, man. I mean, we love to travel out of the country every 2 years. We usually do 3. We'd like to extend it to a month, maybe the month of July. So like I said, last year we were in Italy. 2 years prior to that, we did the Greek Isles. And so we're thinking of Croatia next year for my wife's birthday.
Nice.
So every 2 years we like to go abroad and just expose the kids to a different culture, man. And so like now live there, I don't know, man. I don't think so. My wife and I have had conversations about like getting dual citizenship just because of the craziness going on.
Today I have a meeting with an attorney for that.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
Look at that.
my family, originally they're from Spain. So I'm looking to get our Spanish citizenship.
My sister-in-law just got back. I'm sorry, my sister and my brother-in-law just got back from Portugal.
It's beautiful.
And so Portugal's beautiful, and they're thinking of getting a place there.
Really?
And so I could see ourselves potentially like, getting citizenship somewhere else and just in case type of thing, like a plan B type of thing.
I'm doing the same thing, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, and actually, we're looking out for Christmas. We're like planning our vacation out now, and I'm like, man, where do we go? We're already tired of the snow. So we're actually thinking about going to London and Paris, which I've never been.
How long?
10 days.
Okay.
Yeah, for the Christmas break, man.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Anything else that we should share or maybe something unique about you that we could share with the viewers?
Oh man. Well, why don't we talk about a big failure, right? Like that's something you might not hear on a podcast, right?
I feel like that.
Bobby, I feel like one of the things, man, in our space in particular, like it's almost like, and this is an arbitrary number I'm picking up out of the top of my head, but I feel like 90+% of the content out there is all about the wins and the successes. And I feel like sometimes the audience, the people watching, because I know it's happened to me, you watch and you almost feel less than to a certain degree, right? Because you see these people on a podcast, on stage, and they're like, oh, they have it figured out. And it's BS, dude.
And sometimes you don't even know what to believe. Because we're in South Florida, I'm like, are they being real? Is it real? Are they, are they really making that money? Or you know what I mean?
100%. Which is why, like, some advice I have for people watching is like take the value out of a particular event, a podcast, a show, like, and take what applies to you, but don't let that make you feel less than just because you're not at a certain level, whatever a level means to you, right?
I always tell people, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
People look at it like as a book. Different people are in different chapters.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And you might be in chapter 7 while that person is in chapter 70. God knows. You know what I mean?
I'm going to borrow that one, dude.
Yeah.
I'll give you credit. I like that. But no, man. So like, look, I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. And so, dude, you're going to like say like, dude, you're an idiot. You're going to tell me I'm an idiot. I'm telling you.
Okay.
So late 2005, I got into real estate. And man, I had because of my ready, fire, aim type of mentality, I think I did, 12, 13, 14 deals my first year. Not too bad. Made a couple $100,000, whatever it was. And I completely abdicated my responsibility of filing tax returns. I hired a bookkeeper thinking the bookkeeper's responsibility was not just to keep the books, but to file my returns. So dude, 2006 goes by, 2007 goes by, 2008 goes by. 2009, I'm living in Brickell Key. And I'll never forget, dude, you know when you go to those little mailboxes, grab all your mail, got back up to my unit on the 14th floor, threw all the mail on the counter. Have you heard the story or no?
No.
Dude, there was one particular envelope that had a green certified mail sticker that was like half an inch thick. And it said Internal Revenue Service. This was 2009, had no idea what it was about.
Yeah.
But I knew in my gut, I'm like, okay, this isn't good, dude.
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. Opened it up. I owed $126,000 and change, and my 2006, 7, 8 taxes were not filed. This must have been, I don't know, March, April of 2009. I wasn't going to be...
And I'm sure that was a bad timing also with the market crash.
Brother, no. It was horrible. The market had just crashed. I wasn't making the kind of money I was making in the previous year. And one thing I quickly got exposed to is that the interest and penalties when it comes to owing money to the IRS is no joke, Bobby.
I know.
No joke. And man, like I was in a victim mentality for a couple of weeks, you know, like almost frozen, like paralyzed. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
How, like, dude, $126,000. Like,
especially
that's not
in that era.
Dude, and I wasn't making 126 grand like post crash.
Yep.
And I had that debt. Not to mention, I had like $35,000 in credit card debt. And I'll never forget this, man. I haven't shared this too much. I think I shared it on my podcast maybe once or twice, but I set up an appointment with a bankruptcy attorney in the Gables. I remember driving to that appointment feeling like an absolute loser.
Yeah.
Like, how could I be filing like, dude, I viewed myself as successful. I've done this, I've done that. But I didn't know a way out. And that bankruptcy attorney gave me the biggest gift at that time in my life. He could sense that I was hesitating. And he told me, I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000 to file, which I didn't have, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was hesitating. And he said, I know what you're thinking, because I guess the guy meets with people all the time. And he's like, this is your best option. You have no other alternative. Like, you have no way out. And in my head, I said, F you. I didn't tell him that, but in my head, I'm like, and I'm the type of dude, man, you challenge me, like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
One way or the other. I got up. I just said, thank you for your time. I'm not interested. Hired a coach. And within 3 years, paid off every single penny I owed without being able to do what's called an OIC, an offer in compromise, because I had made too much money the previous years. I didn't qualify for, like, basically think of like a short sale on
or like
IRS
a payment
debt.
plan.
Like a payment plan.
Yeah.
Didn't qualify. So it took me 3 years, man, but paid it off. And to this day, man, like, it's just been such a valuable learning lesson.
That's awesome.
So,
wow.
but I look back,
It's a
I'm like,
great
how
story.
stupid could I be to not file my taxes? Like, that sounds so like ludicrous, right? But at that time, I didn't know any better.
Yeah. So that's actually a nugget. Make sure you're filing the taxes.
Yeah, seriously.
And actually, going back to the whole bankruptcy thing, man, that was a huge learning experience for me too, because I actually did go bankrupt.
Okay.
I had a business. I've been self-employed since I was 19 years old. And I happened to be in the mortgage industry, which is probably one of the worst industries to be in back then with the market crash.
Yeah.
And I went from making multiple six figures to zero overnight. And man, I was a bad steward of money, spending more money than I was making. And I've talked about it a lot with viewers.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, it was a huge wake-up call for me. It was a great learning experience. So I did go bankrupt. I had a couple $1 million in debt at a young age, which is not very smart. Right. But I learned from that mistake.
That's it.
And man, I had to humble up, and I went and got a regular job and start all over again. And eventually I got back into real estate in 2010. But make sure you're learning from these experiences.
That's it, man. So a mentor of mine always says, and he probably got this from somewhere, he says, like, you're never losing. You're either winning or you're learning. Right.
Absolutely.
So it's not the L that people think of.
Yep.
Now, it's a waste if, like, you go through the pain and then you don't learn anything from it. And then, I think I watched something recently that, like, credit card debt today is the highest it's been in a long time.
Yep.
Savings rates are the lowest it's been in a long time. And it's, man, people just don't take the time to get financially educated. Yep. And so these lessons can be hard, and you don't have to necessarily go through that pain to learn them. But if you're going to, that's where you can grow. And so, man, I honor you. Like, I didn't know that, and that's incredible. Like,
and I still have PTSD, man. Like, me and my wife, like, we lived in the same house for a while. Like, we try not to splurge because we still think, like, man, is this a smart move?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even when we bought the second home, like, should we be doing this or just buying something else, like an investment that we're gonna make money from, or cash flow from?
Right.
But yeah, we've definitely been very conservative over the years because of that, that 2008, and me and my wife lived through it because we've been together since we were 19. So she's been through the good, the bad, and now the good again.
That's awesome,
and,
man.
Hopefully we'll stay here, but
that's inspiring. Man, I hope that really resonates with your audience and people watching this, that, like, you can literally, like, hit rock bottom. And if you just decide, you commit, you put the work in, right? Because nobody handed it to you. And look what you've made of yourself. Look at the kind of business you've created. And so, like, dude, you're an inspiration to people, man. That's incredible.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
It's awesome.
How can people follow you that that maybe want to get into self-storage and,
Yeah, man.
and interested in knowing more about you.
I appreciate that, brother. My main sole focus these days is helping people achieve time freedom through self-storage. I really believe it's the best asset class out there. StorageWins.com, WINS, StorageWins.com. Okay. If people want to learn how to acquire and purchase their first cash flowing storage facility within 6 to 12 months.
Okay.
And then, yeah, man, I continue to pour my heart and soul into the Flip Empire Show. Podcast I've been doing for a little bit over 8 years. Yep. Consistently every single week. And so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Flip Empire Show is best place to find me and connect with me.
Cool. Yeah, and what is your end goal with the podcast?
Honestly, man, the podcast was never about monetization. It was about like impacting. Like I feel like I've had so many like hard lessons that I've learned.
Okay.
And so I really pride myself in, again, not just sharing the wins, which I do, but also, hey man, I'm struggling in this area, or here's what I've learned as a result of this experience. And then getting to connect with people, and I've had you on the show a couple times, and so like I'm always a student, right? Learning, like my mindset, Bobby, is you can always learn something from anybody you connect with if you have an open mind and open heart. Absolutely. And so I've been able to build my network. It's opened up opportunities, and so podcast has just been a great platform, man. And
it's definitely a great tool to network, even with people that you don't know.
Yeah.
You know, you get introduced to people, and then that's how you grow your network.
100%. It almost kind of gives you an easy button, too, to like have conversations with people that maybe would be difficult to have a conversation with.
Absolutely.
So
totally agree with you,
yeah, man.
Well, thank you for taking me out of retirement. I'm gonna definitely make it a point to make sure that at least we put out one a month.
You should, man. You should. Bare minimum, dude. People want to hear Bobby Suarez, man.
I know, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean it, dude.
Well, thank you all, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.